The following podcast is dedicated to sonic excellence.
Mary had a little man.
Fun with sound.
Donk. Hello and welcome to the Parp Donk podcast, a beginner's guide to sound design. Come on, let's have some fun.
Rolling on episode 1, Parp Donk, a brief history.
Imagine living in a world where there's no recorded sound at all. That's how most of human existence was. And frankly, we don't like that here.
Oh yeah, drop it in, for sure.
Welcome to Parp Donk. We're your hosts, Jim
and John. I met Jim at a fabulous place called Clack Studios on 45th Street in Manhattan. I had my interview there, and then the first person I met there was Jim.
What year was it that you first met?
84.
Yeah, 1984.
1984. Tom Clack was our boss. Speaking of Tom Clack, Jim, we're actually sitting here with Tom Clack's daughter, Amanda.
Hi, nice to be with you here. I'm so excited to be part of this podcast. Thank you for inviting me to be involved.
Yeah, and you're going to be hearing from Amanda from time to time. She kind of is here to keep Jim and me in line.
You know, and it's great that Amanda is here, as Tom is no longer with us. Otherwise, we'd have Tom here too, and he'd be gregarious and awesome.
We have to be gregarious and awesome.
And we will.
In his memory.
Yes.
It's true.
But Amanda will give insight to the Tom we didn't see, the other side of the studio, you know, I think so.
The unknown Tom.
Yeah.
So yes, stay tuned for all of those anecdotes.
Yeah.
So over the 40 years that you've known each other, what are some of the kinds of projects that you've worked for and, using sound design?
The project's there. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I worked on the Go-Go's record. I worked on Tom Verlaine's record. I actually did the remix for one of Tom Verlaine's songs. I worked with Aretha Franklin. She was on the West Coast. We did all the tracks on the East Coast. And the Aretha Franklin album was like every studio musician in New York wanted to be on this album. So I got to meet like in one night, I got to meet like every studio musician in New York. And that was a real experience, which we'll get into at certain points, I'm sure, because crazy things happened.
Yeah.
And what about you, Jim?
Yeah, I got my start in a small Connecticut studio where we did everything from military contracts. I helped sell the M1 Abrams tank to Congress and to recording all of Guthrie. I then moved to NYC and helped mold the sound of Nickelodeon and many other emerging cable channels. I also worked on a whole lot of high-profile campaigns and won lots of awards.
At night you did music, you did records. During the day, it was all advertising. That's the way most studios in New York ran.
Yeah.
That was the deal. That was kind of like you sold your soul. and you worked all day doing post-production and commercials. And then at night you got to be kids and play with the musicians,
Yeah.
But so I knew the BBC sound effects library. That was the only library we had at the studio.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we had to make up our own sound effects.
Yeah. The studio I worked in Hartford, we had the Valentino. We had 4 records. That's it. So you had to use those 4 records to create anything, So it was tough,
Yeah. Well, that's where Foley comes from.
Yeah.
Necessity.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, we were going to talk about Foley.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
On Parp Donk. Why is it Parp Donk, Jim?
So back to Tom Clack. And what you were saying about the sound effects, the BBC sound effects, the Valentino, there was a very limited amount of sound effects available at the time. And one of the things that made Clack really stand out is he would go out in the field and record sound effects. And in doing that, he came up with a lot of original sound effects, and he was also very creative, and he came up with a lot of fun names for these things, too, which I think other sound effect companies have actually kind of borrowed his names,
Right.
And Parp Donk is one of...
Well, they've become generic, like Kleenex.
Yeah, they have. So Parp Donk is one, and that's the name of this, and that's what you heard at the top. That was actually a rude Parp because it had breakage with it.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
If you look at the description. And so all the names of the episodes are going to have Clack-specific original sound effect names on them. But we'll also tell you what they're about, too. So
yeah, so why don't you go through a couple of them that were...
Yep. So here's the sound effect for each episode we're going to do. Parp Donk Intro in history, that's this one. Sprung, sound design. Big wet splat, voiceover. Head bonk, voice recording. Spooge, interfaces. Boing box, Foley. Bullfrog, field recording. Belch with sigh. EQ, Twink, compression. And the grand finale, Shit Blast, aka the shit tape. That's all 10 episodes for this season.
So let's start talking about the history of sound recording.
Right.
And what happened in the very, very beginning, like before there was the technology to record them.
Right, when Studers ruled the earth. No.
Studosaurus Rex.
Well, one thing I always point out to people is that there was a time when to hear something, you had to be there, right? It's that old, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there, is there any sound? But you had to be at Paganini's concert to know that Paganini was the best violinist in the world, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was hearsay. Now, where was Paganini? Well, there's only one Paganini, and he was traveling probably constantly. He probably makes the tours of today look like, pleasure trips. He was probably on the road constantly. And if you saw him, you were like, oh, that's really good. But we have no proof that Paganini was the best violinist of all time. We just have to take people's accounts of it. That's where sound recording becomes pretty much tantamount to a miracle. It's just technology, so advanced for its time that it's just magic. And that's really the point at which we actually can make records, and not records on a turntable, like a record of an event, so that people can actually witness it without having to be there. That to me is like really the essence of what recording is.
That's where the word record comes from. It's a record of...
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, but like you're saying, like we said at the beginning, imagine no recorded sound. That's crazy, because now everything can be recorded and played back. So I think that it also actually kind of hurt some people and helped others in a way that everyone, if you wanted to hear music, you had to create your own music or go to somebody, who played music. So everyone played a piano in their house or had some instrument. So maybe a lot of people were mediocre.
Yeah, the interminable evenings of, let's have Lucy play the piano for us all,
But all of a sudden, when you get recorded music and you get more professional and higher level musicians, Aunt Polly doesn't sound so good next to, Joplin maybe or something. So then Polly's... So all of a sudden this stuff kind of goes away a little bit, and now we're relying more on recording artists, which is good and bad, at the same time. So
that's true. I mean, it used to be more just
organic.
People getting together in a room and just playing. That's what recording is. You're trying to capture that lightning in a bottle and put it onto a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
And be able to reproduce it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the very first recording, like the invention of it and how it rose to prominence?
So the first sound was actually recorded by Edward Leon Scott de Mortonville. Wow, that's good French, huh? In 1860 on his phonoautograph. And he was trying to replace the human ear. And also, he never intended it to be played back because he couldn't figure out a way to play it back.
He couldn't figure out a way to play it back?
No, because...
So how did he record it?
He recorded on paper and glass, apparently. But now they have played it back. And now technology allows it to play it back.
So now they have proof.
Yeah. And actually, they tried to figure out the pitch because they weren't sure what speed it was.
Right.
Because it was hand crank.
Yeah, right.
And they thought it would be A440, concert pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And so they tried to base it off that. But what they realized was in 1860 how they determined pitch. And so instead of like now, one cycle is a wave up and down.
Mm-hmm.
They only counted the top.
Right.
Only the top.
The period, yeah.
Yeah. So they thought it was a woman singing at first, but then when they realized the pitch was wrong, they redid it and realized it was a man singing Clair de Lune. So, which I have if you want to hear.
Oh yeah, drop it in for sure.
Léon Scott Martinville.
Martinville.
1877, Thomas Edison came up with Edison's speaking machine, which could record and play back. And here's a little of him reciting Mary Had a Little Lamb.
The first words I spoke in the original phonograph. A little piece of practical poetry. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
But it was radio that first introduced us to what I call theater of the mind.
People got to use their creative muscles to paint their own images of what they're hearing. I find this sonic experience to be the most satisfying, as opposed to animation or when you hear things. I think your mind paints a better picture than when you're given a picture sometimes. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think
that
that's
makes
why
total sense.
That's why we're making a podcast, actually.
I mean, that's why people, when videos came out, and and I owe my life's work to MTV, but when videos first came out, everybody was like, "Oh, that's it," for music, because you used to be able to imagine your own videos in your mind, and now everyone's going to have the same memory of like what that song is about.
Yeah.
And I mean, thank God it didn't work out that way, really. I mean, I think people still have their own reasons for listening to songs, and there's certain songs that take me back to specific elements and events in my life, and I see that happening, and I still know the video, and I don't associate it with the song half the time.
Right. Right.
It's just, to me, it's like a fashion object, a video.
Yeah.
The
first radio broadcast was in 1906 on Christmas Eve in Massachusetts, and that was the first music. Yeah, and that's what really ushered in the golden age.
Good evening. This is Professor Reginald A. Fessenden speaking to you from Brant Rock, Massachusetts, at the tower of the National Electric Signaling Company.
That's music you talk.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then but then in the 30s and 40s it got huge. It was kind of like the TV, internet, everything rolled into one for for people in that generation. And this is also where you would get radio dramas. You'd have actors, musicians, and Foley artists, which we're going to talk about later, to really bring these things to life.
Meanwhile, Betty, trying to get her uncle's danger, has undone her bonds and is starting for help.
So now how do you create sounds without any sound library? We had a few, but they didn't really have any. So they had to create these things live, know. Well, so this is a Foley artist. So that's the first sound designer.
There was a collection of sound effects that Hollywood used. And it was the same. It's where the what's the name of that scream? That famous scream,
the scream they put in every film.
The Wilhelm scream.
The Wilhelm scream. Yes, the
yeah.
Wilhelm scream is one of the scream in this collection of sound effects, and all the studios used it because sound was considered really secondhand stuff that you didn't really need. It was cheap.
To this day too.
Yeah, to this day too. But it was always sound got second shrift.
Yeah,
it always has. But the sound people had to use this one collection of sound effects over and over again.
Even in the 30s.
Yeah.
Really?
And that's why all the movies had started sounding the same.
Let's hear the Wilhelm scream
all the
right
doors.
Now. What do you think?
Yeah, actually that sounds good.
Yeah, okay.
And you can actually go on the internet and you can look up Wilhelm scream, and there's just reels of this stuff. You'll see like 50 movies.
Yeah.
And it became a thing. It became
a thing
in the 70s. Yeah, in the 70s and the 80s, it became like a little contest amongst sound designers to see if you could fit the Wilhelm scream into what film you were on. They're all through the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, which is a great point, because when John and I worked at Clack Studios, so when we would sell basically music to people, drop music or sound effects, because basically you're selling something to.
Right.
We had this one song called the Typewriter Song, and it was the worst song we ever heard in all the drop music. So we said, if you could sell that to a client, the studio has to buy you lunch, because it was such a bad song. They're like, if you're a good salesman.
It was a dinner at Morton's.
Dinner at Morton's.
Yeah, the studio is going to buy you a dinner at Morton's if you could sell the Typewriter Song.
It's a private bet we had with each other, because it was the most awful song we ever heard. We're like, God, no one's going to buy that. We're like, all right, but someone does buy it.
Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, but not in a good way. Not like that one that from the
yeah, right.
Sounds like
No.
Holiday
It was
for
like,
Strings.
not that.
The
not
pizzicato.
that one.
It was worse than that.
Yeah.
And now, a word from Parp Donk.
Yeehaw! Parp Donk! That's good chili! Our award-winning triple thick Parp Donk chili really puts you in the saddle, partner. Its slow-roasted tomato beef and bean combo is simmered to perfection. with an added pinch of our secret mule kick spice blend. You'll have your cowboys and Indians shooting it up for more at your next roundup. Parp Donk 3-alarm chili, yeah. Now that's the taste of the Old West.
What's an example of how a sound effect was used live in a radio studio? Because, like, to me, that's really fascinating, the timing of everything, that it had to be so accurate. You know, when they didn't use a record and they had to create it right away.
They would use guns with blanks. You know, that's kind of in your face, don't you think?
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
Yep. You had a door. We had a few of those at Clack, actually.
As a matter of fact, there's the doorbell.
Oh, there it is. There's the
Clack's,
doorbell. Yep,
Clack's.
there's a doorbell.
You see that on the go-to? Here. That was in Clack's room forever.
And there was the sound guy. I mean, the sound guy was the he would have his little corner of the production area, and he had everything that would be needed in the drama to get the story expressed in sound.
So, like the wind machine. Oh, and here's my thunder sheet, which goes with the wind pretty nicely. You can make your own thunder with this. Have a listen. You know, so Tom taught me, and I know John too, really how to do Foley, you know? So,
right. To just have to make something out of nothing. You start to get really creative. You know, there's the classics. There's the wax paper fire.
Yeah.
You know, you take the piece of wax paper and you just crumple it up, and if you close your eyes, it's a fire.
Yep.
It's a fire in a fireplace.
Yeah.
You know, if people are opening up presents, you know, you bring a bunch of paper in there and start ripping it apart and stuff. And then you start to find like alternate ways to make sound effects that you don't have access to, you know?
Yeah.
Like
you have to, out of necessity.
Yeah. Like the famous one is the punch.
Yeah.
You know, the punch was in the James Bond movies, when somebody punched somebody else, they would actually go out into the parking lot and they would throw melons out of a window, the second floor window, into the parking lot, and they would mic when the melon hit the cement. And you put that against the punch, and it fits perfectly. It's just like your face is coming apart.
Magnetic. I have a whole bag of magnetic tape still. So John and I that we use for shrubberies, you know.
Yeah, when you're walking through leaves or when you're walking.
Yeah, it works really well. And I have actually developed a lot of mouth sounds too, because it's easier to just do with your mouth too.
Yep.
I whistle sucking in. I don't whistle blowing out because I've worked on the mic so much. So I taught myself how to whistle in reverse, basically. That's sucking in. Here's blowing out. Mic noise. You don't want that. Footsteps. I do my own footsteps. I Foleyed my wife coming down the aisle at our wedding because I wanted her to have fancy Italian shoes, but she didn't, so I gave her fancy Italian shoes, and she was very upset. But I thought we brought it to another level. So even when you start sweetening your own life, you got to ask yourself some questions.
And Jim won an award. Jim won an award at one point for the best single-stroke motor. Two-stroke motor in the Northeast.
So I do quite a good chainsaw and two-stroke dirt bike.
If you need a two-stroke motor, chainsaw, dirt bike, I'm the guy you want.
You can do it like with your mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Can we hear a little bit of that?
Maybe I might need water, but John had at one point John had this entire Mary Lou's.
We used to go to a bar called Mary Lou's, which is closed now. But one night I had the entire bar yelling, "Do the dirt bike, Jim!"
The whole place. I'm like, come on now. The whole place was like,
because he did the crickets. He did the crickets, and that was good. Whoever we were talking to.
I'll do crickets.
And I said, "Jim, do the dirt bike." And Jim was like, "No, I don't want to do the dirt bike." And I said,
I'll do the dirt bike in a little bit, but let's start with some crickets. Here's some crickets. I'll do it with chainsaw. Maybe. It's been a while, and you can't. This is the problem at the bar too. Remember, everyone's look. I was like, you can't look at me. And they're all
We'll
just like,
all look away.
They're all like, well, let me see if I can do it. Dirt bike. I can do it better than that. Well, we hope you enjoyed this first maiden episode of Parp Donk.
One more time.
Take 420.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this. Mr. Woofer! Mr. Woofer! You're killing my job. Well, we hope you avoid. The mics are sensitive.
Yeah, the mics are sensitive.
These are Neumann's and AKG.
I see.
Well, you're soundproofed here, aren't you, Jim?
Well, we hope you enjoyed this first episode of Parp Donk.
I know I did.
And on our next episode, Sprung, we're going to go a little more in depth into sound design.
Ooh.
And what that means.
Yes.